...1960s Tormented was a part horror, part romance sort of ghost film produced and directed by Bert I. Gordon, a producer infamous in the bad movie circuit with such credits as The Amazing Colossal Man, Earth vs. the Spider, and Village of the Giants. With credits like that, I was fairly confident of what I was getting into, and it more than lived up to my expectations. Tormented follows Tom, a musician who's recently escaped to an island with his socialite fiancée Meg to rehearse for one of the biggest performances of his career, and also to marry Meg in privacy. After spending some time on the island, Tom's ex V manages to hunt him down, and after begging him to take her back, he outright refuses. She then threatens him with a lawsuit based on something she knows about Tom, that's never mentioned or brought up again. V leads Tom to the roof of the lighthouse, and whilst trying to convince him to take her back, she accidentally leans against a weak metal railing and falls from the lighthouse.
Get this straight, Tom Stewart. No one will ever have you but me. Help me! Please, Tom, help me! Take my hand! Pull me out! Save me, Tom, please! Please save me! Please!
Tom leaves, relieved that his secrets were safe, until V starts turning up in various different places, and Tom slowly begins to lose his mind as he struggles to cover up both the death of his ex and cover for his own slow insanity as V repeatedly interferes with Tom's life heading up to the wedding. One of the things that initially wrong-footed me was the surprisingly beautiful location shots in this film. There are some absolutely gorgeous establishing shots of the beach, which left me wishing this film had been shot in colour, because the black and white really doesn't do those shots justice at all. The sets, by contrast, however, are very threadbare, minimal, and look quite dire. This contrast was very striking for me, and if it wasn't for the fact Gordon is the only credited director, I would have sworn that there had been multiple directors on this film. The beach shots, while nice, sadly weren't enough to save the cinematography of this film, which was utterly dismal, dull, and frankly unmemorable. It gets quite literally to the point where the lens cap being off and it being pointed roughly in the right direction is the only thing going for it, and that's about it. If this had been decently edited together, it might have saved it, but sadly this film's editing is on the border of acceptability. It's hardly a cutting-edge affair, mainly consisting of wide shots cutting to head and shoulder shots or two shots and back again. Little to no interest in experimenting with style or shot type, it's mediocre at best. There were quite a few in-camera practical effects used in this film, and while it was nice to see some examples of double exposures for the ghost sequences, crossfades and pause-play stop motion, the effects in this production are incredibly varied and quite often swung from being quite bland to the ridiculous. Equally as dodgy are the actual prop effects, which quite simply are ludicrous, with a shot of a severed head sticking in my mind as one of the worst attempts at recreating a human head I have ever seen. The acting is also really quite dire through this production, with dialogue quite often either spoken completely devoid of emotion or done in an overly sing-songy way. None of it feels natural, it quite literally just feels like they're reading the lines for the first time on set. In particular, there was a scene in which Robert Carlson's Tom returns to the lighthouse shortly after V's death, quite literally just to try and piss off the ghost. And I've never heard anyone deliver a line like, "No, go away, you're dead, leave me alone," in quite as a monotonous and dull way as it's performed in this film.
No, go away, you're dead, leave me alone.
I'll never. I'll always be. Always. Always.
Julie Redding as V is quite melodramatic and one of the better performances in this film, as is Susan Gordon, While not the best physical actor, she speaks quite believably for a child actor as Sandy. The soundtrack quite literally sounds like a jazz explosion. Whether this was due to the sound balance being off or whether it was just the way it was intended, I don't know. But if it was intended to sound the way it does, it's awful. It's stuttery, it's tinny. Luckily, there isn't too much incidental music in this. But equally, there isn't much variation either, meaning that once you've heard the initial half dozen tracks, that's your lot. Get used to the jazz explosion, it's all it offers. It wasn't all bad though. One of the things that I did think was a nice touch was just how they signalled when V was present without resorting to the cheesy effects every time. They constantly refer to the smell of a woman's perfume whenever she's about to appear, or whenever she's been in the area. Tom's friend's dog can also sense when she's about, and she regularly interacts with solid items in the real world to act as a reminder to Tom that she is very much watching over him, and will get him in the end. It even tries to imply that all these ghostly interactions are simply in Tom's head at several points through the film. While the script is far from the tightest I've ever seen, it's touches like these that really added to the depth of the film. Though what goodwill this film did accumulate in these small elements is somewhat dashed by the ending, which really feels like the writer decided that 1 hour and 15 minutes was more than enough, and then just quickly scribbled an ending out that was both very underwhelming, very rushed, and very disappointing. Tormented is a public domain film, and as a result it's available on multiple formats and over multiple sets. I personally own this film at least twice, once through Treeline Films' Horror Classics 50 film multipack, and again on Something Weird Video's release Monsters Crash the Pyjama Party, hidden in amongst the extra features. There is also allegedly a foreign cut of this film which swaps out some of the cast members and also features several nude scenes, though I can't see how even that would have improved this film. I watched the Horror Classics version of this film, and weirdly for this set the print quality is actually quite acceptable. If it had any cropping I couldn't spot it, and the encoding seemed fairly decent. I'm not going to lie, it's far from immaculate, it has some minor pixelating issues and it clearly seems to have been copied from a VHS copy of the film, but it's considerably more acceptable quality than some of the films I've seen in my time. Tormented by name, tormented by nature, this film is irredeemably bad in my opinion, and what few glimmers that do shine through in this production have been utterly blotted out by robotic acting, bland direction and cinematography, and a more than lacklustre set of special effects. There are considerably better films out there than this. If you're curious to watch this, Mystery Science Theatre riffed this episode in Season 4, and the riffed version's infinitely more watchable. Save your time and watch that version over this. This is nothing to write home about.